Yes, it is a bit inconvenient, she tells us. At night, especially when she is tired, leaving the apartment just to use the toilet makes the space feel less like a complete home and more like a puzzle with one important piece placed slightly outside the frame. Still, Maya knows the private toilet makes a huge difference. If it is shared, she probably would not have taken the apartment. The toilet room follows the same rule as the rest of the building. Everything is narrow, minimal, but extremely functional. The apartment's entire personality screams utility while offering the smallest possible version of each necessity, asking only whether a tenant can make it work. Maya's answer, at least for now, is yes. There is one more space in the building that Maya often thinks about, even though it is not part of her own apartment. Higher up, on the fifth and final floor, there is another unit. It has a walking balcony, which sounds almost luxurious compared with the rest of the building. But the unit itself is left in terrible condition, showing what can happen when a tiny apartment is no longer carefully managed. The first thing people usually ask when they see Maya's apartment is not how much she pays, how long she plans to stay, or whether she likes living there. They normally stop outside, stare at the strange yellow building, and ask a much simpler question: someone actually lives in there? Maya understands the reaction. From the street, the building looks less like a normal home and more like a narrow slice of Tokyo that somehow stands upright. At 40,000 yen, approximately $300 a month, it is surprisingly affordable for Tokyo. But the price makes sense the moment you see how little space you actually get. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Maya is a young international student trying to make life work in one of the busiest cities in the world. When she imagined studying in Japan, she pictured a small room, maybe a shared kitchen, maybe a bed pushed close to a window. She did not imagine living inside a triangular yellow building so thin that strangers slow down just to figure out how apartments can possibly fit inside it. Still, this is her home. It has an entrance barely large enough to stand in, a tiny kitchen corner, a green door leading to the shower, a small bath, a narrow main room, and one very unusual detail that visitors never expect: the toilet is not inside the apartment itself. Maya has learned to laugh at that part, but only because she has also learned to live with it. Even before Maya stepped inside it for the first time, the outside of the building warned her that this was not a normal apartment. It stands on a narrow plot in Tokyo, covered in bright yellow bricks and shaped like a triangle. From certain angles, it looks almost impossibly thin, as though someone has taken a regular building and pressed it flat between two larger blocks. The narrowest side is the part that draws the most attention. People walking past often look up at it with the same confused expression, trying to understand where the rooms are. Maya sometimes feels embarrassed. She did not expect her home to become a small street attraction. Over time, though, she has started finding it funny. The building looks impossible, and yet she has her keys in her pocket. For Maya, the strange exterior is also part of the apartment's charm. Tokyo is full of tiny spaces used in clever ways, but this building pushes that idea to an extreme. It is neither elegant in the usual sense, nor is it spacious, but it does what Tokyo often does best: it turns a difficult little leftover piece of land into something functional. Somehow, inside that thin yellow triangle, Maya has found a place to sleep, study, cook, bathe, and begin her life in Japan. The entrance is the first real test. When Maya opens the door, there is no wide hallway, no proper space to pause, and no gentle transition from the outside world. She steps directly into the apartment's busiest little zone. It is where she removes her shoes, places her bag, reaches the kitchenette, and accesses the shower. In a normal apartment, those things are separate areas. In hers, they all happen within a few steps. Maya has developed a routine for entering without bumping into anything. She opens the door, turns slightly, removes one shoe, shifts her bag, and then removes the other. If she rushes, the apartment reminds her immediately that there is no extra room for careless movement. Every object has to be placed with intention. A pair of shoes left at the wrong angle can block the entrance. Beside the entrance sits the tiny kitchen area. It is not the kind of kitchen where Maya can spread out ingredients and cook a long meal. It is just enough for simple food, tea, instant noodles, and the kind of cooking a busy student can manage after class. On the other side is the small green door to the shower room, a detail visitors always notice. The door looks almost cheerful, but behind it is one of the most compact bathrooms one has ever seen. Behind the green door is the shower room. and squeezed inside it is a small bath. The first time Maya saw it, she almost laughed. Technically a bath, it is not generous in the way people usually imagine one. It is tiny, close, and awkward, yet it is still a real bath. On cold evenings or after a long walk home through Tokyo, that small detail makes the room feel less ridiculous and more useful. Using the shower room requires a level of planning Maya never expected from bathing. She cannot move around casually. She has to turn her shoulders before shifting her feet, keep toiletries in fixed places, and avoid buying large bottles that take up too much space. If she drops something, even bending down becomes a small, calculated effort. The room makes her aware of every elbow, every knee, every careless movement, but Maya also knows that the shower room is one of the reasons the apartment can still be called a complete home. Without it, the unit would feel more like a storage space with a bed. With it, the apartment offers the basics of daily life, even if each basic comes in its smallest possible version. The bath may not be luxurious, still it works efficiently. The main room is where Maya's life happens. It is the bedroom, study area, living room, dressing space, and quiet corner all at once. From one end to the other, it measures about 2.5 meters. That number sounds small on paper, but feels even smaller once a person stands inside and realizes the entire room can be covered almost in a single glance. What saves the room, at least in Maya's opinion, is the natural light. When sunlight enters, the space feels less like a box and more like a little secret cabin. The brick-style walls also give the room warmth, making the apartment look almost fashionable, as though the tiny space is styled intentionally rather than forced into existence by the shape of the building. A closer look tells a slightly different story. Some of the brick effect is made from soft, decorative sponge bricks, while the other side uses fake brick wallpaper. Maya finds it oddly appropriate. The apartment is full of illusions, a narrow triangle pretending to be a building, a tiny bath pretending to be a luxury, and walls pretending to be brick. Maya understands the logic. In Tokyo, sometimes an illusion is part of surviving. As the main room is so small, Maya has to treat every possession like a decision. A bag left on the floor can block her path. A jacket placed in the wrong spot can make the room feel messy. A box she does not need can take over an entire corner. In a larger apartment, clutter might be annoying. In Maya's apartment, clutter becomes a physical obstacle. The street outside adds another challenge. Her building stands beside a busy main road, and noise enters the room constantly. Cars pass, scooters buzz, brakes squeal, and voices drift in from outside. During her first nights there, Maya wondered if she would ever sleep properly. She was used to city noise, but this was different. The road felt close enough to be part of the apartment. Eventually, she adapted. Her brain learned which sounds to ignore and which ones still deserve attention. Now she can study while traffic moves outside, though a sudden horn can still distract her. On some mornings, when the light comes in and her room looks almost cozy, Maya feels proud of how much life she has fit into such a narrow space. There are also days on which she stands up too quickly, knocks into something, and remembers that tiny living is not only charming but demands patience every single day. The most surprising part of Maya's home is the toilet arrangement. The toilet is not inside her apartment. It is private but separate, which always takes visitors a moment to understand. Each unit has its own toilet, but Maya has to leave her main room and step into a separate, small toilet space outside. That room makes Maya see her own space differently. A tiny apartment can feel clever when it is clean, bright, and organized. But if it becomes messy or neglected, there is nowhere for the disorder to hide. In a larger home, clutter can spread slowly. In a room this small, it takes over almost immediately. The abandoned upper unit feels like a warning about how quickly compact living can become unbearable without constant care. So Maya's home remains a strange little lesson in limits. It has a yellow triangular exterior, a tiny entrance, a kitchen corner, a green shower door, a small bath, fake brick walls, a 2.5-meter main room, street noise, and a private toilet that sits outside the apartment itself. It is not a place she imagines living forever. But for a young international student in Tokyo, it gives her something unforgettable, a home that shows exactly how little space a person can live in and how much determination it takes to make that space feel like hers.